Hey everybody, John Shell here with Cruise Addicts, and so glad to have you all here today. We've got some great news, but first I want to invite or introduce Michael Consoli. He's a top global producer for Viking Cruises, and he's going to join us, and he's going to sit there and give us some expert advice about the latest news with Viking. So let's get Michael in here. Hey Michael, how are you?
Hey John, good. How are you?
Yep. So we're kind of celebrating, aren't we?
Oh yeah, we are definitely celebrating for sure.
So first, I guess the big thing is that the CDC eliminated the testing requirement for returning to the U.S. So I guess the big question is, what does that really mean for the average traveler?
It means that no more daily testing for Viking for sure. So that's very exciting. So with this announcement, Viking obviously formally announced yesterday that they will no longer be performing daily saliva testing on board their ships. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, I know. I tell you, the people in the Viking Cruises group, it's like we're gonna have a parade. People are so happy, and of course, it's kind of controversial. We have to be honest. That some people, I think it's just one of those things where not everybody's going to be happy, but I think it is progress for the average traveler.
It's progress for travel for sure. I mean, to be honest, to have to test to come back into the United States, the biggest announcement obviously is no longer having to test to come back to return to the United States. It's a stressful thing for travelers to know that they might be at the end of their trip and 24 hours before have to decide to stay for 5 or 7 extra days because they've tested positive. And while we don't want to encourage the spread of COVID-19, many of these guests may be testing positive or whatever and not actually be symptomatic, and it's inhibiting them from coming home. But now, just like the rest of the world who no longer requires testing for the majority of countries, who no longer require testing for their citizens to return or for other travelers from other parts of the world to visit those countries, the U.S. now no longer requires testing for arrivals into the United States. So that's very exciting. And it is the precursor to the big announcement of no more daily testing on the Viking ocean and river ships, as well as expedition.
Yeah, and I think the frustration was that so many people were getting the daily testing, and they're like, we got quarantined. They wouldn't double test. They put us up in this hotel, and they're upset. And then of course they're like, and I don't have any symptoms. I think that was the big kicker. I think if there was some really serious symptoms, they would be a little bit more justification in their minds. There was just a lot of frustration all around, and that's understandable.
It is. I think a lot of people felt, and I know that the feedback that I've gotten from many of our clients is that they feel like we're putting a tourniquet on what now requires, a Band-Aid. And, we're treating the situation to provide safety for the guests and for the crew and all of that stuff. They were following those guidelines to make sure they created the most safe environment for people to travel in. And the cruise industry, I think, was hurt the most. Every industry was hurt by COVID, don't misunderstand. But, this whole thing started, with bad press about how COVID was handled on certain ships. And so the industry as a whole is still very timid as to how they're going to handle, COVID on their ships and testing and all of that. And they want to make sure that they continue to create a safe environment for people to travel, but they also don't want to unintentionally inhibit people from traveling or make them feel uncomfortable traveling. So, it's shifted now. People that were uncomfortable with daily testing are now going to be able to travel and not be anxious about, having to perform those tests every day. So, at the same time, the cruise lines are still taking precautions, all the same precautions. Viking's still taking precautions with, trying to slow the spread or keep, COVID from spreading on board their ships. Like the other lines, they're still doing all those things. So.
Okay, I tell you, Michael, we had a lot of people just join in, so I want to sit there and just reintroduce everybody. Once again, I'm John Shell with Cruise Addicts, and also the admin of Viking Cruises Facebook group, which me and Michael work together on. And I tell you, we're so excited to have you all here. And the big news that Michael was just covering is that not only can you actually get back into the United States, international travelers can get back to the United States without a test, but they've actually dropped daily testing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over some of these bullet points that we have up here, just kind of rehash some of the things you kind of covered, Michael. And if you have any questions, please, first of all, there's 71 people here right now watching. So please check in. We want all 71 of you to say hello. Let us know if you have a cruise booked. Also, please, once this is finished, it'll be recorded and you can make comments again, any questions, and we'll monitor that as best we can and we'll answer your questions if possible. But first, thank you for being here. This is Michael Consoli. He's a top global producer for Viking Cruises. He is the expert, global top producer for Viking. If you have a Viking question of any type, please ask it today. It's an open forum. Just enter a comment below wherever you are. We're on YouTube right now. We're on Facebook, all over the place. Please subscribe, follow us, give us a like. We appreciate all that. It makes us happy. And that's my introduction. So Michael, we're going to go through this, the different questions to make sure we don't miss anything. I see the comments coming in. This is so exciting to have you all here. Thank you so much. And Michael, please, on to you. Please introduce yourself for the people that might not know you. We got a lot of people here.
Yeah, so I'm Michael Consoli with Cruise Planners. I am the #1 producing agent for Viking in the world 7 years in a row. So we sell a lot of the product and really love it. I also have sailed on it many, many times myself. I think, I don't know, 20, 22, 23 times on both ocean and river. So we have a firsthand knowledge and firsthand experience of many of the itineraries and the ships. So, and we're excited to be here today to talk about this very, long-awaited topic of no more daily testing on board Viking ships and no more testing to return to the U.S. when you're traveling outside the country. So that's both of those things are very exciting.
Yeah, so we're going to go through here these couple of things to make sure we come. So obviously the CDC eliminated the test requirement to return to the U.S. And so what does that mean? I think you covered it, but just in case someone might not know, what is that all about? Maybe they haven't traveled yet.
Yeah, so guests who were traveling up until today were required to have a test before they returned to the U.S., a COVID-19 test to ensure they were not testing positive or flying back as a positive COVID carrier. So now that's no longer required. The U.S. has dropped that requirement to return to the United States, which is very exciting. We're one of the last countries to do so. But it is a very exciting announcement because it also means that, Viking can drop the daily testing requirement on board their ships. So, up until this point, guests were required to find someplace. If they were traveling independently, coming back to the U.S., they had to find a place to test, or they had to use, one of these at-home tests like this one that they sell on eMed. These tests were being used to come back into the United States. And now, the guest no longer needs to do that. So it's one less stressor and one less, thing to inhibit people from traveling outside the country.
Okay. And I guess the next question is, did Viking eliminate the pre-embarkation testing requirement?
So in doing so, they also eliminated the pre-embarkation testing requirement. So guests are no longer required to have a test 72 hours prior to their U.S. departure to board a Viking vessel. However, there are some countries that still do require that testing, and I want to encourage guests to speak with their travel agent directly with Viking and find out what those requirements are about 2 weeks prior to departure. So I wouldn't, if you're leaving in October, I wouldn't give it any thought right now because these requirements are ever changing. And in this environment, what we tell you today for a departure in October could be completely different in October. So Viking will provide the guest with a list of requirements for their specific trip about 2 to 3 weeks prior to departure. And I would await that information from them before I make any, arrangements for testing or anything like that.
And I guess, we had kind of covered it several times, but it says, how does this impact daily testing? There is no daily testing anymore, right?
Yeah. The only testing that Viking will provide on board will be at the request of the guest. If the guest is not feeling well or they visit the medical center and, are showing symptoms of COVID, they will, or suspect they might have COVID, they'll test the guests then. They're also testing, they're continuing to test their crew, so that they can keep their guests and the rest of their crew safe. So, but no, the daily requirement for testing is no longer, in place. And I smile every time I say it because, it's a daily conversation that I've had to have with my clients. And, some people, as you said, are very excited about it not being there. And I think that we're going to see, while we have just so many people traveling this year and next year, I think we're going to see another floodgate of people opening that wants to travel.
I know going back to July of last year, people kind of said travel is open, cruising is back. But it really kind of feels like now is really cruising is truly back because we've gotten rid of some of these hurdles and some of these pitfalls, potential pitfalls, and worries that a lot of people in the Viking Cruises group were. I mean, every day people were concerned. People were reporting about being quarantined, and it was very upsetting. So this is great, I think.
And I just have to say, I read all those discussions about, quarantining and things like that. And, there were some, negative experiences that were shared. I have to say that the majority of my clients, and we did have clients that tested positive, the majority, and I would say 98% of those guests that had that experience said that Viking handled it very, very well. So, I mean, I have to give them credit for doing that because it is beyond the scope of what they really are responsible for with the guest, to make sure that they take care of all of that, including getting the guest home at whatever additional expense it took to change that ticket if they had air through Viking. So, they really did an outstanding job, I think, of handling that. And I think that's something that got a little bit misrepresented on the boards just because the majority of people that shared an experience like that were people who had negative experience. And those people who had positive experiences or had experiences that were unlike those really are not sharing that information for whatever reason it might be. So I'm just really glad to know that we won't have to read those posts anymore, hopefully.
Yeah, someone said we want to go back to the Silver Spirits package questions, and stuff like that. Some, nicer things rather than, some of the other stuff that came up. So now, is there any specific itinerary that's actually needs pre-embarkation testing that you know of, or you said check 2 weeks ahead of time to let the guest know?
Well, currently they're still requiring embarkation testing for any cruises that depart from the U.S. and Canada. So those on Octantis on the Great Lakes or Canadian Discoveries, something like that, or the itineraries in Alaska, the Mississippi, those currently, even though Mississippi isn't starting until later, currently any departure from the U.S. or Canada would still require a pre-embarkation test.
Okay. And let's see here. What about other cruise lines? Are they still requiring pre-embarkation testing?
Yeah, so the discussion that we're having today, and I think this is a really good question, John, as this was really specific to Viking. The other cruise lines are still requiring pre-embarkation testing, and that is something to keep in mind if you're not traveling on Viking but watching this video anyway, to find out about the new information. As of today, June 12th, other lines are still testing for pre-embarkation, and you want to keep that in mind that you check the requirements for your specific cruise line and the specific countries that you're visiting, before you board the ship.
Okay, so what does this mean? I will never have to test while traveling on my trip? Boy, that's a loaded question.
So it's a great question. So no, it doesn't mean you'll never have to test. If, as I said, if you experience symptoms or you visit the medical facility with symptoms, they're going to test you on board the ship. They still have the capability of doing so, and will do so in instances where it's required.
Okay, so how will this all affect my trip?
It means you don't have to get up every morning and spit into a tube and worry about coming back from an excursion and finding out that you, might have tested positive. So hopefully it'll make you less anxious about traveling during this time. And, it means that cruising is getting back to what it was before the pandemic. So.
Yep, and that is great news. happy travelers. Hopefully no one has any issues and everything gets back to smooth sailing. So, we talked about this before we went live here. There's going to be like a new demand for travel now. That's what you've kind of said, like a lot of people that have been kind of maybe just not ready to book a cruise, potentially there's going to be a higher demand now. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I mean, we have a lot of people that were apprehensive about traveling and canceled their cruise under, the risk-free guarantee that Viking offered for many of their sailings, including everything departing in 2022. And so we had people that canceled because they were apprehensive about traveling and having to test daily. So, there is going to be a deluge of people that are going to want to start booking again based on this information. So, we still have, people who are holding back because of the vaccination requirements and things like that. But this is going to lift a lot of anxiety for people that may have canceled as a result of knowing that they would have to test daily. So, we are anticipating this week, the demand is going to go through the roof. So that's really something. If you're looking at booking something in the near future, you probably want to do it soon, because whether it's for 22 or 23, because as you can already see from the demand on the website, you can see where things are sold out. The demand is great for the rest of this year and 2023. Our sales are just, unbelievably good. And, the sell-through that Viking has experienced, I think that Tor said it in his video that we posted yesterday, that they are just, so encouraged by the sales that they have. And I think we're going to see that demand go through the roof. I really do.
Is there any specials that you want to share, or is it any just general?
Yeah. So for River, they have that $25 deposit sale that's going on right now, which is really, really exciting. And the pay in full date for 2023 is September 30. So, for those people that are usually concerned about having to pay a year in advance, which Viking requires right now, bookings for 2023 final payment date is September 30th. So if you're traveling in March, you still don't have to pay for it until September 30. So it's a $25 deposit on River. On the ocean product, there are a couple of itineraries that offer free air, specific dates. Free air for maybe South America, Australia, New Zealand. There are some, free air offers for River. So some sailings that have Silver Spirits beverage package, and there's definitely some great offerings. So, and I tell my clients, the earlier you book, the better, because the availability is just going to get tighter as you get closer. So, if you're looking at 2023. Or even 2024, a lot of the 2024 itineraries are open now. So I would encourage people to book as soon as possible.
Great. I've never heard of $25 deposit with Viking, because all I hear on the groups is I had to book a year, they're putting, full payment and everything like that, the frustration, But so the fact that you can actually put $25 down and lock it into September 30th is amazing.
Yeah, look, they are looking for I don't know if those people are aware of, 3 or 4 years ago, and time has flown. So it could be 6 years ago. They used to do these 2-for-1 rates, and they eliminated that marketing program, even though the pricing pretty much was what it is today. So if the one person was $7,000, 2 people were $3,500 each. It's pretty much the same. It's just a different way of presenting it. I think they're trying to see, some new marketing strategies that might encourage bookings. And this is one of the things that they're looking at, is a reduced deposit. It seems to be working so well so far, because we've seen bookings jump up a lot in the past couple of weeks. So
if you're interested in checking out some of these specials, why not call Michael Consoli. He's available at planmycruise.com. You can give him a call right now at 1-800-913-7245. You might want to wait till afterwards, though. But give him a shout, give him an email. You can email him at michael@planmycruise.com. Why don't you deal with the top global producer in the whole world? Just, make it happen. So excited that travel's back. Lock in that. I put a $25 deposit down and lock in that cruise till September.
Yeah. And I should just mention, I love the shout out. John would love to help anybody. And the $25 deposit only applies to river, not to ocean. So just keep that in mind. And of course, it is combinable with our agency specials, which we also have. So I would encourage anybody, as I said, to give us a call. We certainly would love to help you. And, we work really, really hard to provide excellent service and get you the best value. So we look forward to hearing from you if you're interested in booking, or if you just have questions.
Yeah, great. Thanks for clarifying that. So I tell you what, thank you all for sticking around so long. We still have over 75 people here watching live. We really appreciate it. And we have 50 comments, Michael. So let's go through here if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And, say hello to everybody. We really appreciate you all being here. This is so exciting. We just want to sound the horns that, it's a glorious day here. So we have Lil checking in. Good. She was the first. Good afternoon. Hello, Lil from YouTube. So good to see you coming from British Columbia. We're so happy to see you here. And we have Tammy. Hi, Tammy from Facebook. I like your little avatar there. It's really cool. And we have Terry checking in from, she's checking in, but I don't know if she's from YouTube land. So good to see you, Terry. We have a Facebook user. Is spit testing over?
Spit testing is over.
No more spitting. So we've got hello from New Orleans. Hello back to you. If you give Facebook permission in the group StreamYard, we'll be able to see your name and face there. So we've got Tammy, and she's so excited. She's leaving in 4 days. She's going on the Midnight Sun Viking Ocean cruise. How exciting is that?
Very exciting, Tammy.
That's awesome. Thanks, Tammy. And we have Lisa Bailey. She says, hi, please explain if the pre-embarkation test 72 hours before airplane takeoff is still required by Viking. I understand that the test of departure from the U.S. is gone now.
Yeah, so it's no longer required. Viking no longer requires that you test before you leave. But there are itineraries that are going to require that you do test before you leave. The only ones that Viking are requiring it for are U.S. and Canadian departures. But then there may be a test required for the departure you have based on where you're leaving from. So as I mentioned earlier during the conversation, is that you're going to want to wait until you get the directive from Viking specific to your sailing. And they usually send that about 2 to 3 weeks prior to your departure, just to let you know exactly what is required for your sailing. And if for the majority of people, a test will not be required before you depart the U.S., but if there is one required, it will be included in that information. Great.
And we have a Facebook user saying that they're going on the Grand European system from the group. They're going on the Grand European in mid-August, B to A, first Viking cruise after waiting 4 years and
3 cancellations.
Okay. Very excited. I'm excited for you.
I'm awesome. Excited for you. You're going to have a wonderful time.
That is wonderful. Let's see. We got, I think that's the same one. Oh, this is someone else? Thanks. Yeah. They said Grand European A to B on the VE. There's a lot of codes going on here.
Yeah. Amsterdam to Budapest on the Viking Vey. That's one of the ships.
Okay. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
It's you're talking to a teenager, it's like, what are they saying? I'm learning with you here. So we have Terry. She's looking forward to her August 6th Great Lakes cruise on the Viking Octanus.
Yeah, you're going to love that cruise. John will tell you that ship is amazing.
You can see it's behind me here. So we have Barbara Bruno coming from YouTube. Hello, Barbara. Will masks still be required inside public areas on the ships? Great question.
Yeah, so currently the mask mandate for river is still in effect, I think, until June 15th, although I have read some posts and had a few clients tell me that the masks were not being required on board river. That's not an official announcement, so I would wait for an official announcement based on your particular sailing. For ocean, they are not required currently. So Viking had implemented masks on board the river for a 15-day period starting May 1st, and then they ran it through the 15th, and then the 15th through the 30th, and now they're still running through June 15th. So it's quite possible that they could still be in effect. But as of today, there's no official word about whether or not that will be lifted on the 15th. I'm guessing it probably will be, but there's no official word.
And we've got Linda Welch Diamond here. She's on the Lion to Avignon. Did I say that right? In October.
Yeah. So, yep, and you're gonna love that trip. So, if you had the opportunity to do that Nice extension, that is really a nice addition to that sailing. So, but either way, you're gonna love Lyon and Provence. It's a great itinerary.
We have another Viking Cruises group member checking in the Elbe in October.
Yeah, so the Elbe is another interesting cruise, John. Did you know that the Elbe ships are much smaller than the other Viking ships on the river? Because of the draft, they have to have a lower draft, so they have less cabins. So it's really a nice itinerary. So I know you're going to enjoy it.
Great. We got another Viking Cruise group user. We were booked on the Antiquities in October from Istanbul to Rome.
Yeah, very nice. Mediterranean Antiquities, a very nice itinerary. So I hope you're spending some extra time in Istanbul or Cappadocia, because those are two things probably not to be missed.
And we have Steve from YouTube checking in. Thanks for checking in, Steve. We're so glad to have you here and watching on YouTube. And we have another Viking Cruises group member. They're going on the Rhine Getaway in October. And wow, I love the Rhine Getaway itinerary.
Yeah, I love it. I've been on it 5 times. So,
so we've got a Viking Cruises group member. They asked, please clarify the COVID pre-testing on expedition cruises from Milwaukee to Thunder Bay, British Columbia.
Yes, so you will still need to have a test before embarkation for that within 48 hours of departure. So you will want to make sure that you obtain that test before you leave.
And we have Chuck Donaldson checking in on YouTube, getting ready for Mississippi in October, Portland, Oregon.
Hi, Chuck. Hope you're having a great Sunday. And I am looking forward to hearing all about what you think of the Mississippi product. It's a very exciting new product, which we have been anticipating for a long time. The Mississippi River needs a new product, so we're really excited about that.
It looks amazing from what I've seen so far. We have a Viking Cruises group member. They're on the Sky, July 10th. Looking forward to the cruise. I bet you are. What an amazing experience that's going to be.
Yeah, I just got off the Sky with a group of 60 who just had an amazing time. So, yeah, really love the crew on the Sky. They're outstanding.
And we've got Susanna Tarpley from YouTube. No pre-departure testing, Michael?
Yep, no pre-departure testing unless your cruise departs from the United States or Canada. So you'll want to be sure that you check specific to your itinerary, because there still are some countries that may require a test to arrive in that country. So just be sure you're checking that before you depart. But Viking is no longer requiring it, although the country you visit may still require it.
So check that fine print. So Joanna Stringer is checking in from YouTube. She says, first Viking River cruise in 12 days, the Danube Waltz. Very relieved that testing has ended. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, very relieved myself. So yes, we all are. Thank you. Thank you, Joanne.
Kathy Bopp is checking in from Connecticut on Facebook, and she's leaving on the GET next Sunday. Grand European, something like that?
Yeah, Grand European Tour. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we've got Brenda Metzger, checking in from YouTube. Hello from Virginia. Looking forward to sailing the Viking Orion in July.
Yeah, so you're going to Alaska in July. It's very exciting. Orion is a beautiful ship. So I'm actually doing that itinerary next year with a group of mine. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's a really great itinerary.
And I believe that's March. Am I saying Margot? S-Rock. Do we need to test 72 hours prior to leaving for Spain? Hopefully I didn't mess up her name.
Yeah. So Viking no longer requires a test to enter Spain or for any of their sailings except those that are departing from the U.S. or Canada at this time. But Spain may require a test. I'm just checking that right now. So I don't believe that Spain requires a test for fully vaccinated guests. So you should be okay, but I would encourage you to check that before you leave, as it is ever changing.
Yeah. So we have Michelle Kennedy. Do we still need a test? Same thing. She needs a check before leaving. It just depends where she's going, right?
Yeah.
And then we have Facebook user Romantic Danube BR, September 16th through 23rd, finally going after 2 canceled dates due to COVID. So happy and excited to finally get to go on our first Viking cruise. Wow, how great is that going to be?
Yeah, that's exciting. Budapest, Budapest to Regensburg. Please, when you get to Regensburg, make sure you go to the Old Sausage Kitchen. It's one of my favorite places in Regensburg.
Did I ever tell you the story how I got lost in Regensburg?
No.
I have to tell you about that. Okay. So Suzanne, we actually met our group back at the sausage. It's my wife's fault if she's watching. Not really, but so Susanna Tarpley, Paris to Normandy, 6/28.
Oh, very exciting. Yep. Yeah. I just did that itinerary in September. It was incredible. So I really enjoyed that.
We've got another member from the Facebook group, Grand European A to B, leaving July 27th. Awesome. That's all right. I'm getting really jealous of all those people cruising.
Yeah, I know.
And Tammy Reddick, are ocean sailing full or just a percentage? Great question. We haven't talked about that, have we?
Yeah, so I mean, I get this question a lot, and there's not really like a published amount of guests on board the ship. I think that Viking was, scaling back what they were selling maybe through March or April of this year, and now the ships are sailing relatively full, so close to capacity, if not full capacity. I know that they were trying to hold back space as they had space available to be able to quarantine guests on board with the daily testing thing. I don't believe that that is the case anymore, so or that they're doing that intentionally. So I would anticipate that the majority of ships will travel full over the next few months.
All right, we've got Laura Bailey checking in from Facebook. She says, we sail on Sunday from Budapest. Really looking forward to our Danube cruise, our first river cruise with Viking. Can't wait to enjoy all the amazing food on board and be looked after by all the wonderful crew. No
yeah, doubt. You're going to have a wonderful time.
And definitely with the Danube, make sure you don't miss that nightly sail away with the scenic cruising at night. When we did that cruise, some people didn't actually go on the top deck at the nighttime cruise around, Michael, and I think they really missed out.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see that city lit up like that.
I think sometimes if you're just busy, I don't think they did it on purpose. I think you could just miss it because you can get so caught up with dinner or something else. It's very easy.
Yeah.
And Jackie DiCarlo, hello, Jackie. Good to see you here. It really cut close for you. Yeah, I think with all these, I think she's talking about someone else there.
Yeah.
Do we still test at embarkation?
So no, there's not a test now at embarkation. So because Viking has dropped all daily testing, so you would still need to have a test before you board the ship if you're departing from the U.S. or Canada, or if the country that you are traveling to would require a test before you depart the U.S. You need to check that. But right now, Viking does not require that except for U.S. and Canadian departures.
And I'm going to try to go through some of these questions so we don't get so they don't get some of the questions. If it's already been answered about embarkation and stuff like that, we don't want to have the same question. So, but yeah. I appreciate all the comments. We've got so many still to good, and so happy all of you are still watching. Please give us a like, follow. Please give Michael a call. We have his information down below. Give him an email. Ask him about any specials. He'd love to have your business. So let's see. Can we speak to? We did that already. Oh, I know there was a question here.
Well, I think that she is asking specifically for Alaska about the requirements for testing. So, if you're up to date with your with your vaccination status, then a PCR test for fully vaccinated guests can be taken 2 days prior to embarkation, or an antigen test 24 hours prior to embarkation. So those are the requirements for Alaska as they stand today. And you would want to make sure also that you have completed the entry forms for Canada if you're traveling from Vancouver to Anchorage on that itinerary. But yeah, you should get a list of requirements from the cruise line within 2 to 3 weeks of your departure. And I would make sure that you review those. As I said, the testing requirements can change, but as of today, within 48 hours for a PCR test and 24 hours for an antigen test before you board the ship. So
we got another question. It says, with the busy Europe travel season, do excursion sites require masks to be worn?
So this is really specific to the destination that you're going to, or even that particular excursion, church, winery, museum. This is going to vary by destination. So it's not something that we could speak specifically to. Excursions, mask wearing right now is currently required upon river through June 15th, and they may require it on the motor coaches. They may require it while you're on tour. But unless it is extended, then it won't be required. But the specific, venues may require mask wearing. So that is something that you'll want to ask on board the ship about the destination that you're going to.
I guess worst case scenario, you put up in your pocket or purse or whatever, and you're prepared if you.
Just be prepared. And the cruise line is providing masks. So, there was a pack of 10 masks in our cabin when we started our Mediterranean Odyssey cruise, and they replenished it anytime they saw that there weren't more than 1 or 2 sitting there. So the cruise line will provide you a mask if you need one, but I definitely encourage people to carry them so that they're prepared if the venue that they're visiting does require a mask. But there's not a specific answer. There's not one general answer for that specific question, unfortunately.
And Lee Stevens is checking in from YouTube. We're going to Iceland and Norway on July 18th, sailing on Iceland's majestic landscapes.
Really nice itinerary. Yep, you're going to love that.
Yeah, thanks for checking in, Lynn. We really appreciate it. And we have Judy. We are scheduled for Belgium, Holland, late July into August. Thank you for suggesting a check for destination countries requirements 2 weeks out.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, Judy. It is really important because we get calls from guests and, answer questions all day long. And we want to be able to provide our clients with the most up-to-date information. And, it's hard to give them that information if they're 2 or 3 months out. So, because we know it's changing. We watch it every day. And so we do encourage guests to keep aware of the changes, but honestly, the arrangements that you need to make to travel for the things, requirement documentation, things like that you need to travel in most itineraries related to COVID, of course, that can be shared 2 to 3 weeks before and give you plenty of time to prepare. Of course, if for some reason you're visiting someplace like Istanbul or Australia, New Zealand, or any place that requires a visa, you're going to want to make yourself very aware of that early in the process. I know that Viking puts that on their confirmations if there's a destination that requires a visa, and we also share that with our clients as well. So you just want to make sure you're aware of that, because visas sometimes take longer to get. But as far as COVID requirements go, 2 to 3 weeks prior to departure should give you plenty of time to plan properly for what you need, and not have you agonize 3 or 4 months before you go on your trip about the things you have to get done. I know that those people, I'm sorry, I know you're going to say something, John. I know those people that called me last week and asked me if daily testing was still going on. Is daily testing still going to be in place for my August cruise, for my October cruise? They are now relieved that we told them to, not be anxious about it, because now it's no longer required.
So we've got a question from Tammy. If guests test positive, does that mean they would test the entire ship?
Yeah, no, it doesn't mean they would test the entire ship.
Okay. And we have Shauna from Eustis, Texas. Hello, Shauna from YouTube. River cruise Paris and Normandy in October, and ocean cruise British Isles next May.
Yeah, that British Isles cruise, I mean, I've already commented on Paris and Normandy. It was a standout surprise for me. I really loved that itinerary, so you're going to love it. But that British Isles cruise is so popular and sells so far in advance. It's really a beautiful itinerary. The Shetland Islands was one of my favorite stops, so you're really going to enjoy that. Congratulations on having 2 great trips planned in the next few months. That's great.
That's amazing. Can you please pack me in your bag?
Yeah.
So we got a Facebook user from the Viking Cruise group, Michael, and they're barbecuing now and running in and out from the broadcast. Will you post a recording later, Michael?
Yes, we're posting the recording later. Actually, John's going to do it for me. But yes, John will post the recording so everybody can watch it. And enjoy your barbecue.
Yes, don't burn it. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
This will be here to an infinity, hopefully. So
yeah.
So we have a Christmas Rhine B to A. Awesome.
Yeah. So really kind of neat about this itinerary, Christmas on the Rhine, which is they've changed the itinerary from what it used to be, and it visits some really great cities. So that's a really nice itinerary. Up until this point, up until this year, that itinerary was the same as Rhine Getaway, and now it's not. It goes to Dusseldorf and Trier. It's a really, really nice itinerary. So I know you're going to enjoy it.
I love the Christmas on the rivers.
Yeah.
So we have a Facebook user. If traveling in Europe before joining Viking, do we still need to get tested before the pre-cruise extension?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, you will want to make sure, as we've said, that you familiarize yourself with your specific destination requirements, but Viking is not requiring that you have a test before you meet your extension.
Ken just says, what's going on? I just got on here. What's the story about testing for ocean cruises 72 hours before? Michael.
There's no story. You don't have to do it anymore unless you're departing from the US or Canada on one of the Viking ships. Viking is no longer requiring testing 72 hours before your departure unless departing from one of those 2 countries, or your destination country requires that you have a test. So you may want to check that, but Viking is no longer requiring it.
Okay, and look at some of these things here. What are the... We talked about masking on board. Do you expect any changes to that? From Lynn. We're kind of going back 30 minutes here, so we're going to look at some of the questions here. Sorry. This is a good question. Why should I be reassured that fellow travelers may be positive for COVID?
Why should I be reassured that fellow travelers may be positive for COVID? I think this is really not a question. I think it's more of a statement. So I'm not really sure. It's not really, I think it's not a question she actually expected us to answer.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm just going to look at some of these here. Cindy asked about countries requiring testing. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. Is the cancellation, the pre-embarkation test? Let's see what this says here. Is the cancellation of the pre-embarkation test in print anywhere? I know the departure from the ship test cancellation is clear.
Is the cancellation of pre-embarkation test in print anywhere? I know the departure. Yes, we posted it online on the Facebook group. It's also, if you go to Viking's website and click on My Trip and then on itinerary updates, you'll see that it's listed there that they are no longer requiring pre-embarkation testing for cruises other than those departing from the US and Canada. And that they also encourage you to familiarize yourself with the country that you're visiting to make sure they also don't require that test. But it is listed on their website under My Trip and then itinerary updates.
Excellent. So Terry has a question. What about taking advantage of onboard cruise booking versus booking with a travel agent?
So it's a really great question, Terry. So just so you know, if you're booked with a travel agent, and I encourage my guests who are booked with me to book on board because there's always an incentive for booking on board. And I just want to clarify, you can book on board the ocean product. They have a dedicated agent on board that will book you and provide specials. On the river product, they only sell future cruise certificates that you can buy for $100 and you save $200 when you book. So and that's a good deal as well. But yes, we encourage our guests to book on board. and your travel agent will still get credit for the sale, or you can transfer it to a travel agent after you book on board. So the biggest advantage of both of those things is that you're going to get the special that you get for booking on board, and then any incentive that your agent might provide as well. So yeah, we highly encourage our clients to book on board because they'll save some great money. So.
And Linda had a question. I think she needs a clarification. I probably confused her when I said about the special. So
Yeah.
Obviously it's an ocean cruise. So the special, the down payment doesn't apply to that ocean. That was just river, right?
Right. But her question is about the payment due at the end of June.
Oh, okay.
So the way that it works with Viking Promotions is that the promo that you had when you booked is the promo that is provided. If you want today's promotion, you have to book at today's rate. And I'm pretty confident that the rate that you have if you booked earlier is going to be better than the rate that they would offer today on that same sailing. So unfortunately, it wouldn't qualify for the promotional September 30th final payment date. But keep in mind that you still have until, and this is really important to keep in mind, while you're paying in full at the end of June, you still have until 121 days prior to departure to cancel and get everything you've paid except $100 per person back. So I know that the early payment thing is a real bone of contention for most people, but you still are, not exactly a year, maybe 10 months before your departure. So I understand the question, and I hope my answer was explained it well. So
let's see here. I'll go through there. John actually says maybe I'm more nervous now without testing. I may be sailing with folks who have COVID but don't know it. I wish there was still some testing. And I think that's kind of, we talked about that. There is no perfect thing here. I think if we went to Publix or the grocery store, or if you go anywhere else, I think it's really no different just being out there. That's my belief. I'm sure someone will argue with me no matter what position I take. But, I guess just, you're going to go on an airplane, you're going to travel, you're going to be around people. If you do have some symptoms, you can get tested and you can get treatment, of course. But,
I think it's important, John, to say what you just said, and that is that if you are experiencing symptoms or you feel you might have been exposed to COVID and you want to get tested, definitely we encourage people to get tested so that they don't, so they're not spreading that. But at the same time, I think that your point is very valid. We're not testing people that go into grocery stores or then to movie theaters or that are together in restaurants, things like that, where the exposure is really the same. So, it's just a matter of knowing what the risks are and how that would affect you personally. And, making sure that you make an educated decision about whether or not travel is for you at this time.
Yeah, very well said. Here's another good question. Are boosters still recommended? We are only vaccinated. Don't want the booster unless absolutely necessary. Leaving on a Great Lakes Explorer end of June, Milwaukee in Canada. And if you don't mind me butting in here, Michael, I saw somebody posting today, which on the group, but I really didn't have time to look at it further. But they were describing somebody like some requirements saying they had to have a booster. Is that real or a requirement?
Yeah. So let me speak to this question first, and then I'll answer the question that you're talking about because I'm familiar with it from the discussion board. About specifically regarding the Great Lakes Explorer in Milwaukee, if you have 2 doses or you are fully vaccinated without the booster, you still are able to travel, except your test has to happen within 2 days of departure. So the booster is not required for that departure, but you are required to have at least 2 doses and a test within 48 hours of departure. So, but for other parts of the world, John, specifically what you're asking about, most of the European countries are requiring that the guest be fully vaccinated with a booster that or have their last shot within the past 9 months or 270 days of departure. So it is kind of a technical answer to the question, But if they're outside of 9 months from their last shot, they would be required to have the booster in most instances. If they do not have the booster, but have only 2 shots, no booster, 90% of those European countries are requiring that they have a COVID test before they arrive. So that is a way around having the the being fully vaccinated. When we say fully vaccinated, we mean with the booster. Specific to the question regarding the Netherlands does require that the guests have a booster shot if they're outside of that 270 days. So this is a really specific question, and I would encourage people to call their agent, Viking. If you're one of my clients or have questions about it, we're happy to answer the question for you. But this is something that you're going to want to ask specific to your destination because it is ever changing. But currently, the Netherlands requires that you have a booster shot if you're outside of 270 days since your last shot. Now, there is more confusion because if you're just traveling through the Netherlands, then that shot is not required. If you're coming in from another EU country, like if you're traveling on the Rhine traveling on the Rhine from Basel to Amsterdam, and you're coming in on that river cruise ship, it is not required that you have the booster because you're just transiting from one country to another. But if your point of entry is in the Netherlands, and I'm just saying this as of June 12th today, you would have to have the booster if you're entering the EU and staying in the Netherlands for more than 48 hours. You would have to have the booster. Okay. You're going to want to check that out specific to your itinerary and to make sure that you meet those requirements because it is ever changing. And please don't take my answer as the standard for where you're traveling. We need to make sure that we're looking at your specific destination to help you answer that question.
Right. So we have Linda Diamond checking in. She says, love Viking. She's influenced 25 friends to go on various trips. 4 river, it will be 2 ocean cruises. So yeah, it's really cool. Let's hear. We got more questions. Great Lakes Explorer next Saturday from Joanne. Thanks for checking in, Joanne.
Hi, Joanne. So excited for you. I know you're going to love that itinerary.
And can we use the antigen test 24 hours before we sail Expedition Cruise Milwaukee?
Yes, you can use the antigen test 24 hours before you sail for the Expedition Cruise.
We have another group member looking forward to the River of Gold cruise in September.
Portugal's Rivers of Gold. Yep, very nice itinerary.
Cindy is saying from YouTube, Canada does not require testing to enter the country. Why does Viking?
Yeah, because the cruise, the CDC requires that guests that are embarking in the US and Canada have a test before embarking on board the ship. So it's not Viking that's requiring it, although they're obviously enforcing it. It's required by the CDC.
Nancy is asking about still requiring vaccinations for the Rhine cruise. Yes.
Yes, vaccinations are required for the Rhine cruise. So you would want to make sure that you're up to date on those.
Yeah, we talked quite a bit about that, but I know some of the comments are late or early.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Any idea of the reasoning to have the pre-test for U.S. and Canada sailings when both countries don't require to enter either country? I think we just covered that.
Yeah, it's specific to cruising in those countries.
Thanks for doing this from a Viking Cruises group member. You're very welcome. Caitlin Meyer from YouTube. We are booked on the Caribbean and Mediterranean Odyssey in March. Looking forward to it. Thanks for checking in, Caitlin. We really appreciate you being here. Please give us a like, thumbs up on YouTube. Please also subscribe. I'm trying to become a YouTuber. That's my new thing. So, Lisa Bailey, thank you for your patience. You're very welcome. I'm not patient. Michael is. So, okay. Viking Cruises member, will Viking extend final payment date if we already paid in full for another Viking cruise?
So this is specific to the promotion that you have, but I will say that if you have an existing booking, whether it's paid in full or not, and you book another Viking cruise, we usually are able to push back your final payment date.
boy, and there was a whole debate about that on the Viking Cruises group. People talking about all the different scenarios that they've experienced, and there's like, what's the secret sauce there?
The secret sauce is going to be one of two things. It's going to be the promotion that you have or the agent that you work with. But the truth is that the agent has to follow the rules that Viking offers. So it's just that some of the agents know more of the exceptions than and we want to make sure we take care of all of our clients and get those exceptions made if it's possible. So everybody's situation is different. It's not a one size fits all solution. I will tell you that the majority of people who book are required to pay within 18 months to a year prior to departure. And the only exception to that usually is to have an existing booking that would allow you to push that other date back. So,
all right, we're at our last comment, and it's a question. When you say booster required in Amsterdam, if not transiting, does that include a post-cruise in Amsterdam?
So if your entry into Amsterdam is not through the Netherlands, then, in other words, if you're coming in on a river cruise, either from Budapest or from Basel, and you're entering the Netherlands on that river cruise, there is not a way for them to check your vaccination status as you enter into Amsterdam. It's different than if you're flying into Amsterdam and staying in Amsterdam. So if your first point of entry into the EU is going to be in Amsterdam, then you will have to follow the protocols for that country, because that is your first point of entry. And when I say that, I mean that you're getting off the plane and leaving the secure area of the airport. If that is your first entry into the EU, then you need to make sure that you follow the requirements for the Netherlands, which do require a booster shot if you're outside of 270 days. If you're going the opposite direction and coming in on a river cruise, it is not the same requirement. And you will want to make sure that you familiarize yourself with those requirements, because as I've mentioned a couple of times, it's June 12th of 2022, and these requirements may be different, in July. So you will want to check and make sure that you make yourself aware, or that you talk to your agent or to the agent that you worked with at Viking or to us to make sure that you meet the right requirements for your entry into that country.
All right, we got no more questions. I think if you have any final comments or questions, please write them right now so we can see them before we go. We'd be happy to answer them. But wow, we've covered so much here, Mike. We really appreciate you going in detail on so many things that a lot of people have questions on the group, and we really appreciate you. It's always better to hear it directly, from a living person, that's so it's very, very good to have it.
And I think it's worth mentioning, John, that a couple quick things. It's worth mentioning that the requirements are going to be governed by your first point of entry into the country that you're arriving in. So if you're going to Basel, or you're going to be governed by the rules in Switzerland for entry into the EU. So that is what you're going to want to familiarize yourself with. The EU is very different. Their borders are open and people are able to freely cross. So your entry requirements are going to be governed by the country in which you are arriving into the EU and staying in. Not the country that you're transiting through. If you're transiting through Germany or through France or through Amsterdam to get to your destination, then you're going to be required to follow the requirements for, Switzerland, if that's your first point of entry and you're staying there. So just keep that in mind. And the other thing to keep in mind is that this change is going to really increase demand on sailings for 22, 23, and 24. And if you're looking at doing something in that time frame, we encourage you to book early using some of these great specials that the cruise lines are offering right now. So
things could change, right? I mean, you kind of touched on that. So you have to be flexible. Unfortunately, COVID's not gone, and there's obviously been waves. Things could change, but this is what we have going on right now, right?
Absolutely. And you want to work with somebody that you can trust, and then somebody that's going to help you determine if traveling during this time is right for you. The majority of guests, I think, will feel much more comfortable traveling now because of this. But if it's a situation where you have questions about it, you want to work with an agent or an agency that's going to provide you with the information to help you make an educated decision about whether or not it's the right time for you to travel. And, we want to give you those tools so that you can enjoy the world and see it the way Viking wants you to see it. So, we're excited about this news and excited that there are going to be more people traveling. And, we think it's really exciting. It's an exciting day.
They're calling you right now.
Yeah.
So one last question and we'll let you go. Does the EU accept U.S. vaccination cards?
Yeah, so they do accept the vaccination card. I think you'll find that people have been using just their standard vaccination card. I know there are a lot of questions about QR codes and all that stuff, and you can obtain a QR code to enter certain parts of the EU. There's even a company that will provide a QR code for your vaccination card that's accepted in different parts of the world. But yes, just the paper card will suffice for most countries. So.
Yeah, and I would personally always bring those cards, right? Make sure they're original. Yeah. I mean, don't leave home without it. Don't take a picture.
But again, it's June 12th, and this is what's current today. You will want to check with the country, the first point of entry, and see what their requirement is if you have to apply for a QR code through that country or whatever to get your vaccination card. But we've traveled in Europe many times in the past 8-9 months, and always with the vaccination card, widely accepted everywhere.
Right. So we have no more questions. I know we're about over an hour now. Wow, we've covered so much. We've had the best live stream we've had before. So many amazing people joining us. I mean, still a lot of people watching live. We really appreciate it. If you have any future questions, please leave the questions afterwards on whatever platform, and we'll share them. We'll get them to Michael, and we'll hopefully get them answered quickly. But we really appreciate your time, Michael. If you need to work with a great travel agent like Michael, please give him a call at 1-800-913-7245 or email him at michael@planmycruise.com. And of course, you can visit his website at planmycruise.com. He'd love to have your business. And thank you so much for taking the time once again, Michael. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And if you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up so more people will see this great content that Michael's shared with us, and that we hope to bring you from Cruise Addicts. My website is at cruiseaddicts.com. Please also subscribe to YouTube. We really appreciate it. And give us a follow, like all those wonderful things. We'd be so happy to have it from you. So I guess we're going to end here.
Well, John, I really appreciate it so much. And I always enjoy doing these live streams. So thank you again for doing that. And, I look forward to doing the next one.
Great, Michael. Thank you so much, and have a good night to everybody. We'll get a little banner here. I think my dog's getting restless here.
Thanks, John. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.